Alright, so in Premiere Pro here, I have a short video clip I took with my drone. I already color graded. That's just my personal preference. I find it a lot easier to apply Dehancer to my footage. Definitely don't have to, but I do recommend it. And I have my Premiere Pro layout. It's a default, so anybody new here can follow along very easily through the menus. So with that said, let's get started. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to right click on the gray area here, select new item, and then go down to adjustment layer. And this is automatically going to match the dimensions of your video clip here. And if that looks good to you, click OK. Then once we have this created, we have to drag it on top of our footage here. And make sure that all of it is on top of the entire video clip so it all takes effect. And then from here, we're going to want to click the drop down menu, click Effects, then Video Effects. And now it's going to take us to Film Emulation here, which has Dehancer. So we're going to drag this onto our adjustment layer. And it's going to make a dramatic difference to your footage. And that's because everything is set to its default. So to correct this, we're going to go up here. We're going to click Effects. Then from Effects, we're going to want to go down to Dehancer Pro. And then go through all these drop-down menus and disable everything. So I'm just going to do that very quickly. Alright, so with everything disabled, you can see that my footage looks exactly how it did before I applied Dehancer. And before I continue too, I'd like to mention that I'm only going to give you guys a brief overview of Dehancer and the things that I like to use myself. So everything, you might see me skip some menus and drop-down menus here, and that's because I'm just giving you my honest opinion of the things I like to use personally. So with that being said, I always like to start in the input section. Rec 709 is really good if you're not shooting in RAW, and in this case I didn't. Although I definitely not against trying to select a camera profile that works for you. Personally, I actually like to use the Dehancer Custom right here, and it adds a really nice look to my footage. That's just personal preference though, play around with whatever you like to. And when it comes to film here, I don't use it. It just makes the footage look weird, I find, especially when I don't shoot in RAW. So I always leave this disabled. I like using Film Developer though. I set the color separation to 75% and then enable it. Then I go down to Film Compression. I leave it as default. Then the prints, I like to set to either the 2383 print film or the Injera glossy paper. The glossy paper for this seems to work best. Very subtle, but it does add some nice look to it. Then film grain, I like to set to 35mm ISO 500. This looks best in my opinion. I'll zoom in so you guys can see the difference. So there's it without the grain, and there's it with the grain. Halation, I really like that they even implemented this into Dehancer. It just adds nice fringing along these highlighted parts. It makes it look like true film. Bloom, it adds some more exposure around the light source, I find, in highlighted areas. It looks very nice in my opinion. If you do custom, make sure not to overdo it because it can look very artificial. So I like to leave it at the 35mm right here. And the last I like to do is film damage. In most cases, I will play around with it like in the custom drop down menu here. But honestly, I like just using the 35mm for quick edits, and it looks very good in my opinion. So that's my brief take on Dehancer for Premiere Pro. If you are interested in buying Dehancer, make sure to use the promo code Dehancer /photo tips for your purchase. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.